Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I am back with the rewind edition for the Ti Urban Legend album. Now, this album is my favorite album that Ti has released, and I think I don't know for standpoint of the era that this released in. I was in high school at the time, and I remember going to a basketball game, and this album was supposed to come out that following Tuesday, I believe, and this game was on either Thursday or Wednesday or something like that. So they had the album a whole week before, and they were listening to it in the layup line, and I didn't know what the song was or what they were listening to, and then I found out, and I was like, man, this album's pretty good. I can't wait till it come out. So when I listened to the album, even to this day, it's one of my favorite pieces of works that he has because it majorly, it doesn't have many skips on it. But I'll get into the background of the album first, like I always do. Um, this album debuted at number 7 on the U.S. Billboards, and then number 1 in hip hop and R&B, selling almost 200,000 copies in the first week, selling 193,000 copies. Like I said, this album came out when I was in 11th grade, I believe. It was a very good album in terms of raw rapping ability, without having a lot of crossover hits on it. He had a few songs, Bring 'Em Out, which I wasn't a fan of. It was the lead single with the Jay-Z sample on it. I wasn't a huge fan of that song, but it makes sense in the scheme of the album and then in the sequence of the album as well. But this album, in my opinion, had a lot of B-sides, but um, I always say to be a great artist or definitely a great rapper, you have to have B-sides better than your A-sides because we know those A-sides, especially back in the day, were usually those radio hits to get people to buy the album to lure people in. The B-sides are those songs that are not commercially fit that scheme of radio. It might have too much explicit content. The lyrics might not be where it needed to be as far as cleanup standpoint. So those B-sides are important. Uh, that's why Nas is one of my favorite rappers because of those B-sides. I don't really like his A-sides as much, the stuff that made it to the radio and made it um to the masses. I like the stuff that no one really, gave much light to, like um Gave You Power and mostly the whole It Was Written album, the Illmatic album. Most of those songs are B-sides that didn't make it to radio hits. But T.I. has a lot of great B-sides, and this album was the epitome of those B-sides because a lot of songs that he talked about were street songs that were never going to make it to the radio. Especially now, they wouldn't make it to the radio. But these songs that he had were classic hits. It was just raw street rapping, raw ability, no gimmicks, no concepts, just straight rapping, just showing that he had this rapping ability, not just for the South, but for hip hop and rap in general. Uh, he's a very underrated rapper, and I always say this because he really didn't have a lot of great A-sides as far as, he had Whatever You Like and other, songs with Rihanna and stuff like that that kind of put him over the top. But coming up, he had, 24s and trap music and Let's Get Away and things like that that didn't really hit as much because, I don't know, maybe because he didn't have the features or maybe he didn't have these exquisite videos like that. For whatever reason, he never made it to mainstream like that. He made it, he was right there on the precipice of it, but he never went over with it. But then when after he did like the little prison stint and stuff, he started making these commercial hits and he started becoming more famous. But this is the album Urban Legend when he was in the trenches, when he was coming off the trap music album, which he had the song 24s that people started to pick steam on and people started to notice him because we know his first album didn't do as well and he didn't do well with the label back then. Um, but then he started, when trap music came out and he started getting better producers, he started going into this next echelon of success and commercial hits and commercial success as well. And then with the album, like I said, I talked about the Bring 'Em Out single. I didn't like as much, but it made sense in the sequencing of the album. But You Don't Know Me and Motivation, now those were the two best hits on the song, and they were both coincidentally produced by DJ Toomp. DJ Toomp had this great run of music when he was producing songs with Kanye around this time, and he was doing a lot of stuff with T.I. and a lot of down south rappers. Uh, and he just had a great hit string of hits and production. He was bringing these his superhero type beats when he was at his peak of production. I'm not sure what he's doing now. I'm pretty sure he's still producing now, but he's not as prominent as he was back in those late 2000s. Then of course the ASAP song that he put out, that's another one that he had that was a great hit. It didn't hit commercially because, like I said, it didn't probably fit the radio scheme or whatever. But that was one of the best songs on the album as well. Why You Mad at Me, which a song is probably could have made the radio, but I don't know, for some reason a lot of these songs just didn't. I think he just didn't do a lot of promotion on his album. But Why You Mad at Me, he talked about being king of the South and starting to put out there that he was the king of the South and that he was somebody to deal with, not just in Atlanta, but just in hip hop in general, but mostly the South. And he also addressed it, the hate that he got for the artist that he was, because he did, in my opinion, invent trap music and gave a name to it. I don't want to say he invented trap music, but he gave a name to it. Most people were just calling it street rap or drug rap or whatever they were calling it, but he actually put a name to it. And then now we know it's a genre within the hip hop community now. And he was one of the first artists I ever seen to do it. Now, he did have some features on this album. The Stand Up track with Trick Daddy, Lil Wayne, and Lil Jon. That track was, like I said, everybody had a good verse on there. And this was doing the back end of, I think, Lil Jon's height of his musical career. And, of course, Trick Daddy's always relevant with his rap and the ability to rap about other things than just street stuff, but just how he grew up and what he wants to see done in the community. And then another song I liked, My Life, featuring Daz Dillinger, which was very good. I liked that song when T.I. was rapping about other stuff about his family and why are people, hating on him when he's just trying to strive to be the best, the normal day-to-day stuff. He gave another layer to his rapping. T.I. is one of those rappers also that doesn't just rap about one thing. He prides himself in being able to rap about, what he wants to see the world be, where he came from, where he wants to go, his family, even just talking about love. He did that also on Chilling with My B, which was with Jazzy Faye, which Jazzy Faye was featured in a lot of hip hop songs coming up. He kind of like backed out of the scene, probably a little bit after the height of Sierra's era. But he was featured in a lot of songs. He was kind of like what DJ Khaled is doing now. But he was doing a lot of production and then a lot of talking on records and promoting records and things like that. He was one of the best at doing that. But like I said, this was an underrated album with a lot of street hits, and a lot of people don't give this credit it's just due. But I think it is important for his catalog. It's my favorite album in his catalog. But it's also one of my favorite, probably top 50 albums in hip hop history, just off of the content and just the ability to be diverse within the scheme of the rapping, just not being boxed in. But if you haven't heard the album, check into it. And until next time, I'll see you next time.